Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the December 14, 2022 Glendale Civil Service Commission meeting. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Gazarian,
Here.
Commissioner Astorian,
Here.
Commissioner McCarley,
Present.
Chair Hartunian.
Here. What's next?
Minutes. Consideration for the minutes for the meeting of October 12th, 2022 and November 9th, 2022.
Thank you.
I
Ms.
can
Orbit.
move the November 9th, Mr. Chair. But the October, I wasn't here and Commissioner McCarty wasn't here.
Let's, well, we're gonna have an issue, because I was gonna suggest we go in order of the minutes, and I would move to approve the October 12th meeting minutes, and I suppose we're gonna have an issue with a second.
Mr. Chair, may
Let's hear
I?
from Ms. Warpetian on that.
On the, we can take them separately. We can do the November 9th first, because we will have a quorum for that. The one for October 12th, we've continued this item from the November meeting to this meeting. And what I would suggest that we do at this time, because we will not be able to approve them, to note and file them. So we would entertain a motion to note and file the October 12th minutes. And anybody could vote on that or make that motion, second it, and vote on it. It doesn't reflect the accuracy of the content of the minutes, just that the minutes were taken and they are filed. If at some point in the future it becomes an issue and is challenged, obviously the videotape would be a more accurate record of what transpired at that meeting.
Okay, unless, I guess the other option is to confirm that Mr. Gazarian, who was absent on October 12th, has not
I was
watched
not
the...
absent, I don't think I was absent.
I and Mr. Astorian were absent.
Oh, okay,
and
okay,
not
okay,
vote on the
okay.
October
And you
12
have not,
minutes.
and you have not watched the video of the meeting?
I have.
I
Okay,
had the
all
pleasure
right.
of doing so.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the,
I'll move to approve the November 9th minutes.
I'll second that.
roll call?
Commissioner Gazarian,
Yes. Oh, well, I'm sorry, I was not here. I abstained.
We got enough.
Commissioner Astorian,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarley,
Present? Yes.
Chair Hartunian.
Yes. And then next,
For a motion to note and file the October 12th minutes.
So moved.
Second?
Commissioner Gazarian,
Yes.
Commissioner Astorian,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarley,
Yes.
Chair Hartunian.
yes. Thank you. Next item, please.
Oral communications.
Do we have any? No. Thank you. Next item,
Recruitment and examination report.
Ms. Adams, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair and members of the commission, this is the regular recruitment and examination status report, which represents the current recruitments in process and that our team is currently working on. You'll notice that our team has 78 open recruitments. And at this time, they're in various stages of the recruitment process, and this report does reflect those stages. If the commission has any questions, we will answer those. Otherwise, this is a note and file item.
Thank you. Any questions?
No questions.
No questions. Thank you, Ms. Adams. Next item, please.
Eligible list established.
Thank you, Ms. Adams.
Yes, Mr. Chair and members of the commission, the subject before the commission is the regular report that includes all of the eligible lists that were recently established since our last meeting. This report includes the total number of applications and the number of individuals that advanced through the various stages of the examination process for those positions. Since our last meeting, we had a total of 17 lists that were established. 6 were open to the public, 9 were given on a promotional basis, and 2 were both open and promotional. This is a note and file item. However, if the commission has any questions, we will be happy to answer them.
Any questions?
None.
None.
No questions. Thank you. Next item, please.
Class specification for approval, Principal, Library, Arts and Culture Administrator.
Ms. Adams, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair and members of the commission, before you is a request to revise the class specification for Principal Library Arts and Culture Administrator. The Principal Library Arts and Culture class specification was last modified 6 years ago in October 2016. The Library Arts and Culture Department is requesting an update to both the essential functions and requirements for the class, as well as adding 2 additional assignments. The department is proposing to add finance and facilities assignments, which are largely financial management in nature and include budget, auditing, monetary controls of the department, to name a few. The department also seeks to add public services to this role, and that includes library operations, circulation, programming, and community outreach. Adding finance and facilities and public service to the class specification will provide the department more flexibility around management of work that is largely administrative and the ability to recruit for these skills and abilities. The Glendale Management Association has been notified of the department's request and has not expressed any concerns. If the commission has any questions, we have HR staff here, as well as Gary Schaefer and Nicole Passini from the library department, and they are prepared to answer any additional questions that you may have.
Thank you.
I would be interested in hearing from the librarian herself.
Okay.
Chair Hartunian, members of the commission, what questions can I answer? I feel like,
Since I think I was the one
Ms.
that
Adams.
invited you forward, your opportunity to discuss this particular position. I assume, looking at the organization chart, that this position exists and that you presently have 3 within the city who serve in the capacity of Principal Library Arts and Culture Administrator.
yes, we do. Okay. The arts and culture position is filled, the collections technology and innovation position is filled, and public service is filled as well, so.
I'm just going to work backwards, though. Now, I'm looking at the organizational chart.
Sure.
But is this organizational chart related to the entirety of the operations under your oversight, meaning Library, Arts, and Culture Department?
Yes.
The top of the org chart is Director. And of course, I'm honored that you would come forward and assist us in understanding the need for the recalibration of this class specification. I think basically my initial comments will probably be my conclusionary comments that expanding the scope and role of a middle-level manager is beneficial in multiple ways. It provides that person with greater reach, an opportunity to influence, make decisions across the broad spectrum of activities that characterize the functions of the library as we now know the library. So the org chart, and this is what is interesting and of course somewhat educational, but not to tax the time of those who watch this program. The 3 divisions that you have within the library are the system-wide operations, finance and facilities. I would deem that your administrative functions. That includes your IT, or do you share IT, or you acquire IT outside your particular department? Who provides your IT support, by the way?
IT is a combination, so at city IT, the city IT department
Yes.
provides all the support to staff, all the staff facing. Everything that we provide for the public is primarily supported by our staff, and that sits under collections technology and innovation, that
That's
Principal
your
Library Administrator.
external relationship with the public. So for instance, I see myself in the Harvard Library, and I have a need to look at, do a search of some sort, and the person that would assist me is in fact qualified and would fall under the technology section of your particular department. So these exist: system-wide operations, art and culture. Are all the positions filled?
No, the positions are not all filled. Of the existing assignments, the marketing position is not filled. That function is overseen by another position that we have. Arts and culture and collections, technology, and innovation are filled. And then public services is also filled.
Okay, you're using titles that are most interesting, but are those titles found on the organizational chart that was provided to us? If you can just take a quick reference.
Sure.
Our page 20.
Yeah. So,
This is, at least as presented to us by our HR director, is the laydown for your department. And it breaks it into 3 major
Yep.
Divisions. System-wide operations, I assume that could be euphemistically called operations, or what the library does for the community. And that is headed up by your second in command, the Assistant Director of Library Arts and Culture. And subordinate is one of these principal library arts and culture administrators.
2 are
2 of them.
subordinate. So the
I
central
only see
library-
1. That's perhaps why I'm asking these questions, because my organizational chart that I scrutinized, I want to reconcile that chart with what you're telling me.
Absolutely, yeah. One of the principal library arts and culture administrators is for public services, and they oversee central library and neighborhood libraries.
Okay.
And then the technology, innovation, and collections is the second that is currently filled under,
It's filled with what? See, what I'm saying is, the
Yeah.
way that you have structured this, and that drives to why you're doing such a good thing, and that good thing is expanding the scope of responsibilities for this particular job classification. So we have principal library arts culture administrator, and then that person is responsible for the oversight of the central library, all the adjacent neighborhood libraries, and is responsible for technology, innovation, collections, which would be your external people, not your IT, your core IT, as you've described to me.
so I want to clarify
Yeah, please.
the principal library arts and culture administrator in the org chart under the assistant director.
Yeah.
There's a 2 there, so just to indicate that there's 2 separate positions going down there. So I can see how we could have laid this out in a clearer way, and instead of doing central library and neighborhood libraries, replacing that with public services,
Okay, I
because
think,
that's one. And then the second one separate is technology, innovations, and collections. Does that help?
so that means that at some point, there is a further line drawn so that one principal library culture administrator, as you've suggested in your request to us to expand scope, is responsible for central library operations and neighborhood library operations.
Yes.
Then you have another middle manager, which is a principal library arts and culture administrator, who is responsible for technology, innovations, and collections. That's her responsibilities, which mean those people that assist me in doing Google searches at the library for summary purposes. Okay. And then you reference your finance and facilities, that's your admin office. And what then, arts and culture, does the director, this principal librarian, that relates to the efforts, ongoing efforts of the library to promulgate activities, events, cultural events, ethnic-driven cultural events, as we've seen, for instance, the Day of the Dead, which is perhaps one of the more interesting, just one of many, many interesting programs, and that is her responsibility as well.
In part, yes.
Okay.
One of the big areas of responsibility for the principal library arts and culture administrator over arts and culture is the liaising with the Arts and Culture Commission. So they, working with that commission alongside the
That's
director is a big
people
part.
that have given up their time, members of the community who serve and might find themselves sitting in this chair
Yes.
at one particular evening or afternoon. All right, I now, basically, and then I'm going to conclude, you are creating what is called fungibility or interchangeability. So that gives you the authority, if we grant it today, so that the principal library and arts cultural administrator, now designated and responsible for the central library, can find herself responsible for arts and culture. No firewall. They can make that move, because that's what we're doing for you.
Yeah, the educational requirements are a little bit different between
Well,
arts
this is
and-
what we're delving into,
Yeah.
because you see what you're doing. There is a mechanical
Yeah.
basis for making modifications to the class specification.
Yeah.
And I like it. I've said that a multiple number of times. If we can have people serve in a variety of capacities, they're able to better serve the community. Cross-trained was once used. So at this point, and then I'll stop here, you're asking us to move forward to allow you greater flexibility in the management of your department and to allow you to move these individuals from division to division in the best interest of the city and the patrons of the library.
Yes, this would allow that.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is this an open file item?
No,
You have
we
to
have-
No, we have
Approve
to,
it.
okay,
Yeah.
is there a motion?
I'll move to approve, since I spent too much time talking.
And I will second that.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Kazarian,
Yes.
Commissioner Astorian,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarley.
Yes?
Chair Hartunian.
Yes. Next item, please.
Reports and information.
Ms. Adams?
Yes, Mr. Chair and members of the commission, before you is an informational report on performance evaluation and the return status for the City of Glendale's employees. As you can see, the response rate is over 99%, with less than 1% past due. At this time, there are no evaluations on the second list. If the commission has any questions, I will be happy to answer them. Otherwise, this is a note and file item.
Any questions?
None.
No questions.
Okay.
Next item, please.
Civil Service Commission staff comments.
Okay, thank you very much. I usually open the floor for comments, but today I'm gonna start as the chair, and then obviously we'll welcome any additional comments. But as the people in the audience see, and as people watching us see, Commissioner Abkarian is not present today. I haven't gotten used to calling him a former commissioner yet, but as we learned this week, Commissioner Abkarian submitted his resignation and resigned from this commission, giving us specific reasons as to why. And because he feels so strongly about these reasons as to resign some months before his term would be over, I wouldn't want to summarize or try to explain what the reasons are as to not to misstate or misrepresent his intentions and his feelings. So I am going to just read the portion of from his email to the staff of the reasons why he's resigning. He emailed earlier this week, I believe, stating that he's submitting his resignation effective immediately, and I quote, "My resignation was based on the most recent developments in recruiting Armenian officers in the city of Glendale. Based on what I have witnessed, I can no longer be objective about my decisions as a commissioner." End of quote. He goes on to thank the staff, the city, and wish everyone well. I just read the reason why Commissioner Abkarian resigned from this commission after serving on this and I think on other commissions for the last almost 2 decades, maybe over 2 decades. I'm sad to learn of his resignation prior to the expiration of his term, which would be somewhere, I believe, sometime in May or April of next year, because after so many years of dedicated service, I know he deserved our proper recognition, our show of gratitude, expression of gratitude, and a proper farewell. And we don't get the opportunity to do that today, which is disappointing for me personally, and I'll have the fellow commissioners comment on that also. But it is also especially disappointing to learn the reasons why he's resigning. And I know my term is coming up as a chairperson, is ending soon. But as I continue to serve on this commission, I will work with my fellow commissioners and staff and our attorney to learn more about the circumstances which prompted Commissioner Abkarian to resign, and to the extent possible, again, within the powers and limitations of this commission, to find out more about the reason and to the extent possible to work together to prevent such occurrences from happening again in the future.
Chair Hartunian, if I could just maybe address that, and I know that Ms. Adams probably wants to speak to it too. Obviously, the statement that you just read was not something that staff had the opportunity to review, investigate, and so the allegations are pretty serious. And I know that Ms. Adams is also taking it very seriously, and she will look into it with the proper staff. So discussing it at this point is probably not the appropriate time or place, because we really don't have the data that supports the comments that were made in the email, which I understand may have been received secondhand. So it's not to say that we're dismissing those statements. We're taking them very, very seriously, and it's something that Ms. Adams intends to pursue. So maybe something that we defer for a later time.
Mr. Chair, I strenuously, I appreciate the comments from our advisory attorney, but we have a distinct responsibility based upon the contents, right or wrong, true or false, of that statement from our fellow commissioner who brought forth what appears to be a violation of our civil service rules and regulations. I did not say that we have a sustained allegation. It appears. We have the power. I will make a motion, and that power is that we're going to call the acting chief of police or the chief of police, if appointed. We're going to commence an investigation. Investigation might be too strong a word at this point, but it will be that we have somebody present to respond to the questions. We have, gentlemen, the authority to do that. We don't have to rely on anybody else. We can commission our own investigators if that is what we want. But for us to forsake that now is a dereliction of duty. So I'm making a motion right now that we require the acting commander or chief of police to report, to come forth and respond to initial questions from us regarding the accusations of discrimination with respect to a member of our community. Now, I have to...
May I just say...
No, not yet, until I complete this representation. This is no, you are an advisor. This is a,
please.
wait a minute,
Okay,
Mr.
well,
Chair, this is a question concerning the authority of this board. And I'm strongly recommending that we commence some form of investigation. To do nothing is a failure. It's a failure on the part of this commission. So I'm moving that we conduct what is called an inquiry. Don't call it an investigation. This is an inquiry, and I'm making that motion right now.
As to your motion, and I would like to hear from advisory council, I'd like to have a discussion before any motion is made, because this is a comments section, and I haven't even made a comment yet. So I don't know that we can make a motion during a comment section. Maybe we can. If we can, I would be inclined to second it, but I'd like to make some comments.
understandably.
With your permission, if it's okay with you. Go ahead. I don't want to...
Just a point of order that the Brown Act would prohibit making a motion at this time. This is commissioner
We're going to
comment.
reopen it. We're going to reopen the proceedings to allow us to entertain that motion. That is a
Commissioner McCarley,
ploy.
please allow
No,
me
no,
to
no.
finish my
Not
statement,
until-
sir.
Wait a minute. Not until we establish the authority of this commission. You are in charge.
You can do all that, we don't have to
agendize it.
interrupt each other, we don't have to.
Understand.
It's just, we have a council here present, we want to hear everybody.
Okay.
That's why I opened up for comments. Just to be fair, the reason I did not interpret or try to interpret the reasons for Commissioner Abkarian's resignation is so that I don't, again, for that very same reason, so that I don't interpret or allege anything that is
can't.
more than what he's
Absolutely.
saying.
We
That's
have
why I
not a
read
finding.
directly from his email the reasons, which was sent to staff. So the rest is,
May I continue to be
Sure.
heard? I'd like, is this on now? Yes? Okay. May I continue? Ms. Varbetian, were you done? For
Yes.
the moment? I'd like to, first and foremost, thank my colleague, our colleague, Albert Abkarian, for his many, many years of service, for his experience, wisdom, and the historical context that he brought, at least to me, while I have served here perhaps a decade or so now, he had served prior to my being called to service. So he had a great deal of knowledge historically as to the Civil Service Commission and the what's and what nots over the years. So when I who also was on the email that was sent to our chief examiner, Ms. Adams, when I read that email, I was very, very, very taken aback, because it is not like Commissioner Abkarian to walk away from a challenge. And that is disturbing and concerning to me, because for Mr. Abkarian to walk away, Commissioner Abkarian, former Commissioner Abkarian, to walk away from a challenge makes me make certain personal decisions based on my knowledge of him and his character that I will not now discuss publicly, but none of them are derogatory as to his character, and all of my conclusions are concerning with respect to the last sentence of his email, which was not read by the chair for no other reason than it's perhaps somewhat redundant, but it is telling to me. He concluded his email by saying, "I wanted to thank you," to Ms. Adams, "and your staff for your assistance, and hope that you will see that unfairness in the city hiring is eliminated." Now, I understand that is his position. I echo your concern, Commissioner McCarley, that if such a commissioner's concern is that, I don't think it is based on one or two factors. It must be based, I have not had an in-depth conversation about this, so I don't know what this is yet, but I would be interested in having an inquiry. And mind you, being a criminal defense practitioner, everybody is innocent of any wrongdoing unless or until proven otherwise. And I cast no aspersions here in any direction. But now I will defer to the chair and commission counsel, and I would ask that if it is not appropriate to reopen, as Commissioner McCarley asked, if it isn't appropriate, if it is, then, you know, we reopen the meeting of this evening, and my colleague can move, and I will gladly second, at a minimum, an invitation on the agenda for the chief or acting chief or appropriate personnel to come, and I may even suggest that maybe we invite our former commissioner now, Mr. Abkarian, to come and enlighten us as to what this is and where is this coming from. And with that, I will yield. Thank you.
And Commissioner Astorian?
Mr. Chair, Albert Abkarian, Commissioner Abkarian, or former Commissioner Abkarian, at least in my case, Ms. Adams, has provided so much institutional knowledge on the operation of this commission that to me, it has been invaluable. So when an assertion of that nature in the email comes from a commissioner, a long-serving commissioner, I take that very, very seriously. In fact, I will go on record that I called you in that regard. You were the first call that I made. So I agree. The decorum and the procedural matters put aside, I agree with everything that has been said on this dais in regards to you having an inquiry, or the city to have an inquiry in this regards, because it's of utmost importance. We take pride that we live in a city that is getting further away from prejudice, is getting further away from implicit bias, it's getting further away, and it's a work that we all have to continue. But the moment that we get alerted that there are incidents that work has been stopped or that progress has been impeded, that affects us individually and professionally. With that, I thank you for your indulgence, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Varpetian?
Just again to discuss process, the resignation arrived on Monday. Today is Wednesday. The agenda had already been published. It was not something that could be a part of this agenda for discussion. I spoke with Ms. Adams. She took it very seriously. She immediately developed a process by which to look into the matter, and it's going to take time for her to do that. And I don't mean months. I don't mean a year. She has in mind to begin immediately a process to look into the allegations. I did say when I made my comments that we took it very seriously. This is not an effort on our part to close discussions, shift it in any way, dismiss the comments. It's the same, your concerns are the same as Ms. Adams in mind. So again, there's no animosity, there's no adverse position here. The message is consistent, and there is a plan in place, but it happened on Monday. It's Wednesday. We do need to allow the process to take its course and for there to be a complete and accurate review of what's occurred.
All right, I'm going to move.
I'm sorry, but there's no
Wait a minute.
motion that can be made.
Yes, there is, because what I can do is a request that we reopen this hearing for the purpose of entertaining motions. We have that authority. All I need is a second. Do we reopen it? Then I will make a motion that we invite the appropriate officials to our next meeting to provide an explanation, and as well to empower, and I'm going to use a much stronger verb, direct the HR office to come forth with a full report hopefully a balance, I assume a balance. I'm hugely respectful of Ms. Adams. I know that she will do absolutely the right thing and come forth with a report so that we can respond and do what we are obligated to do. So the only procedural matter that needs to be done right now is that, having made a motion, I get a second so that we can reopen this hearing tonight for the purpose of making another motion, one, to ask that the requisite officials come forth, that be designated by the department, in this case, it's the police department, and that Ms. Adams move forth at all due deliberate speed and come back with her reasoned and supportable report on what took place. And then and only then, we don't know what's right or wrong. And I concur with you, as an attorney for over 40 years, I can't make a decision whether that is of substance or not, whether it can be supported. But the fact that somebody of the caliber and importance of our fellow commissioner now resigned on the basis of this, I cannot forsake this. This is something we must do, otherwise we shouldn't be on this commission.
Thank you, Commissioner McCarley. Just have
If I may.
quick comment. Ms. Varpetian, yes, I appreciate this came in on Monday, and I didn't mean to say that, you know, agenda was not ready and it was overlooked. And I do appreciate that, you know, the timeline of the events. I have a question as to accepting Commissioner Abkarian's resignation. Who has the power to accept or not to accept his resignation?
I believe that would be done by the city council.
Okay.
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 So has that, may I inquire, then, I don't know if it's
They just had a-
appropriate to make an inquiry in a comment section, but this was a resignation that was an email sent to our chief examiner, and we were CC'd on it. And I have no reason to not to put value in what you said, Ms. Varpetian, that it's city council that accepts it. The city council is the one that appoints each and every one of us. So, Ms. Adams, was that sent to city council already, that resignation?
Yes, so after receipt of the email, that email was forwarded to the full city council on behalf of the city.
Okay.
I accepted the resignation.
Okay.
I also developed a review plan that same day that I will be implementing. I have to get some additional resources, and in the coming months, I have a plan to come back and report out on what I have found. I just don't have enough information to speak factually about what was presented to me on Monday.
So, thank you. I think that answers the second question that I was going to ask the chair to permit me to continue to pose. It answers a part of it, and that is, I hear and I feel the sense of urgency by my colleague on the other side of the aisle, Mr. McCarley. And I also hear the concern from council to the commission, and unfortunately, while Mr. McCarley has a great deal of experience on these types of commissions, mine is limited to the last 10 years, and I don't dare say I'm an expert. So I'm going to be looking to two things. One, if Ms. Adams, if in this informal Civil Service Commission comments, you are hearing what I'm hearing, which is Mr. McCarley's very committed concern and intention to seek some answers and seek them as soon as possible rather than later.
Yes?
Would this discussion, obviously I would imagine it would prompt you even more, as prompted as you were. What time frame do you think, what is your objective, what is your plan? To bring us some findings? Because I certainly, at a minimum, I'm going to ask from my commission colleagues, and I see Ms. Varpetian wants to be heard, and I'm going to yield in a second, that we put on the agenda the very next meeting to hear from representatives of the city or the police department or any other department that you might think that this is applying to. Go ahead, Ms. Varabete.
Just from a process perspective, we are in the comments section of the agenda. The chair has the ability to work with Ms. Adams to set the agenda for the next meeting. I believe he has heard, I don't want to speak for you, the concerns that have been expressed, the desire of the full commission. And in working with Ms. Adams in developing the plan, I think we can schedule a time to both address the concerns that Ms. Adams has with regard to devoting appropriate resources, and then also making sure that the commission is informed. I'm just very concerned at this point that during oral comment, or rather during the commission comment section, that we have had an extensive discussion about the specifics. And I just caution you, because that would in fact be a Brown Act violation, and I would like for us to stay away from that.
Right. I'm going to move right now, just to get this rolling. I'm going to move that we merely reopen for the purpose of entertaining a motion which will incorporate, Mr. Gazarian, exactly what you stated, which is to have a full report and to invite those officials who have any understanding or involvement in this allegation, nothing more than an allegation, to come forth. So that incorporates, but in order to circumvent the procedural hurdle, which has been identified by our advisory attorney, I've got to get a second for my motion to back this tape up, so to speak, reopen this for the purpose of putting a motion in.
That hurdle can be.
No, it can be done right now.
But that hurdle can also be addressed in a proper
What's the issue?
manner
What
in due
delays
time,
us?
If we continue to work with
No, we can't, I guess the point,
There may be a way, if I may. Let me
Go
just,
ahead.
Chair, I'm
Then I have a
sorry.
question for
I'm
you.
concerned, if my counsel is saying that this may be a Brown Act violation, I'm feeling very uneasy.
the Brown Act violation was because we're sitting right now during the comments section, so as to get past that, all I'm asking is that we push back and reopen this hearing so that we get beyond the Brown Act violations. It just takes one motion. We've done it before.
Just a
Ms.
quick,
Barbatian, I have a question for you. I'm sorry, Chair. Just like the city council, if an idea that wants to be brought to the agenda, the councilman proposes it, and with a second, that gets agendized and/or put in the process. Would that apply to this commission? I mean, there is a way that we may be able to respond to the impassioned pleas of my fellow commissioner sitting next to me. In other words, he could very easily ask, look, I am looking for somebody to say or to second an item that I wanted on the agenda. And we will all be very glad to do it the same way that the council does.
That is not a process that has been adopted by this commission. So it's not something that we would look for. It wouldn't be getting two votes and then something comes back on the agenda. And I don't mean to be a contrarian, but this meeting has not concluded. We do not need to make a motion to open a hearing. There is no hearing. We are during the oral comments section of this meeting, where we get to make brief statements about what has occurred, what we'd like to share. We have done that. We've done that for over 30 minutes now, which now I think could probably be seen as extending the oral comment to a discussion, the commissioner comments to a discussion. I've cautioned you multiple times not to do that. We cannot make a motion at this time. This item is not a part of the agenda. The agenda had gone out on Friday, the resignation came back on Monday, and this meeting is now on a Wednesday. Again, just to reiterate, the points that you have raised are valid. They are at the time, Ms. Adams has already responded. She's indicated to you the steps that she's taken. She's already developed a plan. There is not an effort to delay this process. We just can't keep talking about it because it's not on the agenda.
I'm going to emphasize this again. We're being hamstrung by bureaucracy. All we're doing is reopening this proceeding for the purpose of making a motion so it's on the agenda. We have that authority. That we have. We are not violating the Brown Act. We could have violated the Brown Act if we continued to have conversations without the basis of a report. All we're doing is putting this on the agenda so that we force a review. That is our responsibility to the people of the city of Glendale. I don't care what and from where they came from. We have an allegation of discrimination brought to the attention of this board by our own commission. That is very serious. And to wipe this away, to say it's going to take months to conduct an investigation is not what we do. The charter itself, the charter allows us, we have our own set of regulations. We are the only commission in this city that has its own set of rules and regulations. We have basically quintessential authority in this area to make our own decisions. All I'm asking, Chair, is that you back it up so that we follow the suggested route and we can make those rules. Just because we haven't done it before doesn't mean that we can't do it now. There's no prohibition whatsoever. All we need to do is to reopen this, move forward a bit, reopen the proceedings, then we get a motion to request that the department come forth and explain, and that Ms. Adams promptly, with due diligence, come forth with a report. That's how it's done.
Heard you, Commissioner McCarley. Ms. Adams?
May I?
Sure.
I just want to underline and underscore that when I read the email, I took it very seriously. My profession calls me to review any allegations of unlawful discrimination in the workplace. I do not need a directive to do that. That is inherent in my profession. I developed a plan on Monday. I informed through the city attorney's office the entire council on Monday and accepted the resignation on Monday. I will report back when I have findings and more information.
So my question, I'm sorry. My question is, can we just ask that the matter be put on the agenda? Does we need a motion for it even? I mean, things are agendized every meeting.
That's right.
None of them are through motions. Staff decides what to put on. I've been chair of this commission on at least two occasions, two terms that I recall. Chief Examiner has often contacted me, confirmed with me, and I'm sure Ms. Adams will contact you, will confer with you, Chair Hartunian. Just give us an assurance you put it on the agenda. What I'm asking for now, I don't know about Mr. McCarley, I'm asking to hear from the police department preliminarily, which will be part, I suppose, of the investigation. But if there's a better way, fine, you know. I mean, by the way, Commissioner McCarley, we don't need to reopen anything. It's never been closed. It's just, except it's a comment section and it's not an agendized item. So I don't know. That's where I fall short.
Please, Ms. Adams, that is not directed towards you in terms of direction. It is a manner mechanically in which we can prioritize a workload. And so we're basically indicating, if we get it, we want representatives of the department in question to come forth and respond to questions. And to the extent that you have the personnel and certainly, hopefully, the time, you've got essentially 30 days to come back and provide what could be identified by you as a preliminary report. But to go beyond that, all we're suggesting, we just set it, and that's all I'm in right now is procedural. I have made no determination in my mind whether the representations and the information provided by our fellow Commissioner Abkarian are true or false. I don't know that. But our response, I don't want to preach on this, but
let's.
all right.
We also
Commissioner.
don't want to
So,
cross-examine
yes.
That's
somebody.
right, but we don't.
So
we get
heard
the report.
everyone. Obviously, everyone
We need a report. We need a
everyone is
report.
passionate about this. We heard everyone. We heard our counsel. We heard Ms. Adams, and I have no doubt. I for a second doubt your intentions. You have reported to us now that you have started a process, and this is not a process that will benefit from forcing. I am all for due process and for all sides, meaning that if it gets prolonged for too long, that's not fair to the other side. So this just happened. So I will start working with you immediately, starting tomorrow, whatever the process has to be, to put this on the agenda, because a full report will unlikely be ready, even if we ask for it today. So we will agendize this item for next meeting, and then we will take it.
All right, let me get this clear. Chair, you have now, I would just want concurrence on this. That matter is on the agenda for next month, which
I'm
is
sorry,
January.
this is
I don't
not
think
the
I can-
appropriate
This
time
is
to
not
receive.
your role at this
It
point.
is my role to.
No, I just want confirmation that it's going to be on the
You can
agenda.
You
get the
cannot
confirmation.
reach
Will
a
it be on the
consensus.
agenda,
I am
yes or no?
sorry, this is a violation of
It
the
is up
Brown
to
Act,
you.
and
You
that is a
have that
misdemeanor.
authority
I'm
to
going
set your
ask
own
you to-
agenda.
Commissioner
You are
McCarthy.
advisory. When you have the authority to set it on the agenda.
Commissioner McCarley.
And that's the and
That's
that's
what
the
we're asking.
direction.
That's all we're
I
asking.
will work with my chief of staff to put this item on the agenda.
Okay, will that happen? Will it be on January?
Will I work on the
No, no, no,
agenda?
no, I'm just saying, will it be on the agenda for January? That's all I want.
Well, how would he know that?
He
Mr.
he
McCarthy?
just
'Cause they
says,
have to
put it
prepare a
on,
report.
as you said, Mr. Gazarian, over and over. When I was the chair, we have that authority to bring an item and put it on the
Yes, but-
agenda.
But the timing of it depends on the
That's
feasibility
okay,
of preparing a
but if she
report.
comes back, that's happened a couple of times. If it-
Commissioner, perhaps, again, like my fellow commissioner said, you have more experience, perhaps you know more than I do, but there is no reason for us to, pump our fist. Everyone is entitled to due process.
I agree.
And I am wholly, entirely committed to go through this
Yes.
with my chief of staff,
Yes.
starting tomorrow morning.
Yes.
We will, as far as I cannot guarantee whether this will be on agenda for the next meeting, but I have every intention, and it is my desire, and it is my request to have it on the agenda. The rest, as far as what the process needs to be to put it on next month's agenda, I will work with you, Ms. Adams, starting tomorrow morning.
Understood.
I told everybody in an email that I was going to be leaving at 6 o'clock. It's 6:07, and there's another item on the agenda. So, Mr. McCarley, please compromise with me. I'll compromise with you, and everybody will compromise with everybody. Let's trust our chair. Let's trust our chief examiner that they'll put this thing on the agenda the very earliest date possible, and with my wish and your wish, we hope for it to be in the next meeting. Please, let's.
And I
And
will,
also, just
wait a
as a
minute, hold on.
closing
I will
comment.
respond by saying I accept that, because as somebody who believes that cooperation is far better than just sheer aggression, then I would accept that with the representation of our distinguished chair and our HR director, that movement will commence with due, deliberate, and reasonable speed to bring this to our attention, with the expectation that there will be an agenda item addressing this specifically in January. And I'd be okay, as Mr. Gazarian has encouraged me to work together, and I agree with that.
And I join his calls, and as we continue to work through this process, I will encourage everyone, it is going perhaps to be passionate, but I will encourage everyone to keep our, voices a little down, because we have staff who have helped us, continue to help us, and it just doesn't, I'm not comfortable when we're yelling at each other, sitting on this dais. It just, and it's not productive. It's just, that'll be my closing comment with this, and I think we can move on to the next item.
Thank you.
Closed session,
Thank you.
So we
Please read the item into the record.
closed session.
Read the item.
Reinstatement housing advisor.
Mr. Chair, I think at this time we will turn the cameras off, and everyone in the audience who is not a part of this agenda item, we will ask to leave.
Okay.
I
In the
believe
process
the
of leaving.
commission will likely reach a conclusion, and we will report out during
not in camera.
open session, but we will not be on camera when we come back.
Okay, thank you.